On this podcast, there will be language that some people apparently don't like. We really don't understand that. It's just language that people use. We're not trying to be crazy with using vulgar words, although we like them. So it's just regular conversation with regular people, and we don't want to limit it. So if that's not what you're into, go to church because this is the Reef Beef Podcast. My name is Rich.
My name is Ben.
And today, on a very special Back to Basics Reef Beef, we are joined by the fabulous One Brain Matt Wandell, and we are going to be talking about nutrients and why the hell that's still even a conversation being had, and some other stuff as well. So this podcast is sponsored by saltwateraquarium.com,
Champion Lighting and Supply,
and powered by PolypLab, and of course, brought to you by all the support from the wonderful beef supporters that call themselves beefers. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to this episode of Reef Beef. It's Ben and Matt. Matt just ran away. I love it.
Oh,
Start the show.
God.
Matt takes off.
was it something I said?
Goodbye.
He's like, bathroom break.
I was cheating on somebody, and the Coldplay camera saw me. Oh, that's not going to be funny in like 2 weeks when everybody forgets that entire thing happened.
I don't think anybody's going to forget about that.
No, it's everywhere right now, and then everybody's going to just forget about it in like a month.
Yeah.
Massive.
Such as internet now.
All right. Well, now that we've done the freaking social commentary that has nothing to do with the point of this podcast.
Richard, what's going on with you?
Me? I am getting ready to go on vacation and into the field.
Oh.
So I leave for Fiji and Tonga for a couple of weeks, in a week or so. And then I get back for 2 days. And then I go to Panama for that octopus thing that I'm still kind of not allowed to talk about. So I'm getting everything ready to be gone. And it's really nice. I'm telling you, with having moved all of the equipment out into the cabinets, so I'm not crawling around under the house, making sure that all the dose pumps are up to date and all that kind of stuff. It's all just so easy to change now. I refilled the calcium reactor just before we started recording because it was like, oh, this will take a second now because it's just easier. So if anybody doesn't remember, I moved a lot of stuff out from under the house into cabinets by the side of the house so that maintenance is easier. And I tell you, man, and woman and no man, if you set your maintenance up to be easy, it's way more likely you'll do it.
But yeah, that you're like one of the there's probably not too many people to like go mess with your tank the way it used to be, was you had to like crawl on your hands and knees underneath your house. I mean, that's a barrier.
Yeah, that's a pain in the butt, but now you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And the one flat that was under the house that was still like way under and really hard to get to now that there's a deck, I broke that down and set up another one just underneath the laundry room's behind me right now. And there's a big tank on the ground underneath there. So it's all easy to get to. We're all my tiles are getting ready for to get CCA on them. So they're all now currently furiously growing CCA. So I'll be ready for the spawn. And no, everything's just going on this trip feels easy. Maybe it's the brain drugs, and all of a sudden going on trips isn't a crazy thing for me anymore. But it's like, oh, this is great. Patrick's already been filled in. There's a house sitter, and everything's doing just fine. I got no complaints under any of my animals.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
Saltwateraquarium.com.
Saltwateraquarium.com.
Saltwater, swimming through the water. We're going to, if you have a saltwater tank, hello, saltwateraquarium.com has been with us. Like, I think they showed up like episode -24. They've been with us before we were a thing. So like, that has all the stuff that you could look for. They have 3 like distribution centers across the continental United States. They have all sorts of discounts. They'll answer your questions online. They have articles. They have a mobile app. Look at don't miss 15% off.
Yeah. I'm looking at the app. I'm looking at what's new, and there are so many sales going on. So just go on there and click on the sale, and you'll save some money. Saving money is always good. And when you save that money, then you can give it away to people who deserve it more than you.
Yes.
Check that out at saltwateraquarium.com.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
Do you want to see the coolest new tool for aquariums, or do you want to wait till later?
I do not. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see it. Oh, a toothbrush.
This is the Rubbermaid cleaning brush.
It's okay with salt water?
It's sealed, so it's got an O-ring on the battery, so you can put it underwater. We're not putting it too deep. It works like a toothbrush.
What are you cleaning with it?
Right. So it comes with a bunch of different heads as well. So this is the only head I've used, and this comes to us from Beefers, Paul Dimling and James Biggers, maintenance people who said they won't do anything without one of these things. So it's kind of like this rubber-headed brush. It's the only one I've used so far. You can really lean on it if you want to, which is nice. So you can really put some oomph behind it. And I've used it to clean all my pumps behind me, all the wave pumps, because they grow algae and by the propeller and then on the propeller. I'm sure you've seen that. And normally you would take it out and run it in citric acid for an hour or whatever. Now I just rub it with this.
Are those bristles rubbery?
These bristles are rubbery. There's there's two other sets. One's more like a toothbrush head, which I haven't used yet. And then there's like discs, kind of like quasi felt or sanding discs that I haven't used them.
It seems like the rubberiness would grip like string algae pretty decently.
Yeah, it's great. I haven't used it on, I got some string algae in the display tank. I haven't used it yet, but for getting the algae off the pumps and off around the pumps and even off some of the glass, when the algae grows on the glass and it's like that dirty algae and it's not like threads or anything. It's just right on the glass. This kind of cuts right through it. And it takes just regular AA batteries, and it's pretty great so far.
But since it's from Rubbermaid too, it's probably not like crazy expensive.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cheap, and it's got totally different heads, and so I'm looking forward to using it more. Seems like a secret of some of the maintenance folks to use that. Now, of course, I'm going to be excited over it for 2 months, and then it'll be like just another tool, which is how these all should be. But I'm excited about this right now because
I'll get one and see if I'm excited about it or not.
Boy, it cleaned everything so quick. So that's what's going on here.
Hey, Rich,
Yeah.
is that spinning in circles or is it just moving back and forth like a toothbrush?
It's like a toothbrush.
I
Okay, so it's
want
not
it to
spinning.
spin in
Okay,
circles.
It's not spinning, but
Right.
it's just vibrating.
I feel like if
Okay,
it spun
gotcha.
in circles, that's why I was thinking of rubbery tentacles. It would like grip and rip.
It still kind of grips and rips. And it
We'll
comes
see. If James says he won't do anything without it, I'll just go take his accounts because I will.
Yeah, so like here's one of the other heads. It's a big
Holy
one.
cow.
That's a giant one that I haven't used for anything. But I could imagine using this if you've got a lot of algae and you want to tear through it. And then
If you got that much algae, you might
It's
as well
got-
start over.
it's got these kind of felt discs, and this one's a little more abrasive. Don't use that.
Scratchy glass.
Don't use that on your glass. And then it's got, this one is more like a just a regular toothbrush head.
I'm sure originally made to clean around sinks and in the shower.
Yeah. Why won't this go on?
Whoa!
Everything's ruined. I've broken everything.
It's
I want to
all...
see. There we go.
Better pray.
The fuck?
Thoughts and prayers.
Great. Now I can't get it.
Broke
up.
it. Richard is trying to put the machine back together.
Oh,
Can't-
I hope you'll edit this part out of the podcast, right?
no, this will stay
Oh
in.
no, man! Knowing Snowman, they'll double this.
A good thing there's not a commercial for this product. You're like,
Yes.
"Oh, son of a!
You're like, oops.
It just electrocuted me."
Yes.
So I love it. It's pretty great. I'm going to keep using it and tell you more, but those two guys think it's the best thing since butt bread. So do you like how I just pretending like I fixed this? What the hell
Yeah.
happened?
Now we're watching Richard trying to put it back together. There he goes. He put the collar on.
There
Now,
we go.
Twist
Okay.
lock and boom. Maybe it's
Funny.
a Richard problem and not a Rubbermaid problem.
That's my new favorite thing.
yes.
So suck it.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
Champion.
Lighting and supply.
Champion.
Lighting and supply. Champion lighting supply.
Champion.
Champion. That's Todd's favorite song. Todd Crunkle, the owner of Champion Lighting and Supply.
Champion Lighting and Supply has got a brand new product. What product is this, Ben, that you can buy at Champion Lighting and Supply?
That is a little product called Reef SIBO from Reef Beef. It is, see, look, you can even drink it. And you can, I better careful what I say because you can do all sorts of stuff with it. It's Legion.
Yeah, so check out Champion Lighting and Supply. One of the things we really love about Champion Lighting and Supply is that they use cardboard, reused cardboard to pack their boxes. So they're not putting plastic or packing peanuts in there. They're using old cardboard boxes. And I swear, I don't understand why every company isn't doing that nowadays. So that's the kind of thinking that makes me really love Champion Lighting and Supply. Plus, they got all the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Check them out at Champion Lighting and what, Richard?
Supply.
Wow.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
What's up with you,
Use that to
Benjamin?
brush my teeth. Oh, I'm having this on again, off again problem with this relay at a client. I love these relays that I have out there, and I have not had a problem with them otherwise. But on this one client that has a 600-gallon and like a 1.5 horsepower chiller, and so twice the Neptune has let me know that this client's temperature is coming up, and I'll call him, and he says that it's flicked itself off. And I used our Discord to go on there because there's so many people on there that are much smarter than me. And I'm like, I'm having this issue. And John was saying, you know, maybe that thing's rated to 20 amps. And he's like, go try to find a 30 amp one, because there's a lot of details that I don't need to get into. But the filtration room is a room that's attached into the garage. Now, it does have an AC thing where it blows into there. It keeps the room cool, but the people that originally installed this 1.5 horsepower chiller in the room, it sits butted up against a wall that on the other side of the wall is the actual garage. And all they did was put like a big like AC register. So it's passive though. It's like they wanted just the chiller to push this hot air through this register, and it's not doing that. It needs an active fan to draw it through. And John was telling me that if a chiller gets hot, in order for it to like come back on again, it might need to use more amps if it's trying to come on and the unit's hot. So I think it's kicking the relay off because it's staying hot in between, you know, when it comes off. And I'm having sort of issues with the client because he's a super nice guy, but he's like, you know, I asked can we ventilate this into the garage? And granted, he's got expensive cars in the garage, but you know, I'm like, I don't think passing this air into your garage is like going to make your Ferrari rust. But at the same time, like, I don't want to be culpable of that either.
So we're talking about the relay that you put on a controller, and it uses wall power, but the controller controls the outlet.
Yeah.
So that's good for heavy hitting and energy sucking pieces of equipment like a giant chiller. Have you put the chiller on like a kilowatt and monitored it and see if it like spikes or anything like that?
I should, and because those aren't even that expensive, I could easily do that. I was thinking, I mean, can't I do that off of I guess since it's on a relay that I can't get that information off of a Neptune?
Correct.
Okay. The kilowatt would be the thing.
Yeah.
I look on the Neptune and it does show me how it beautifully balances it between 78 and 79, but it looks like the chiller's overworking because it's coming on and off. Now, I did the thing on the relay where to protect itself, I gave it a 2-minute delay on the relay for the Neptune to say, hey, the relay's telling me to come on, but I'm going to wait for 2 minutes and then I'm going to come on. Because when I originally did this, it was just working itself to death and popping the thing off. What I did as an experiment is I went into that code and I changed it to 5 minutes to see if I could bide some time until I come up with a solution for this.
What's your temperature range for the chiller?
78 to 79.
So, yeah.
Why do you have such a tight temperature range?
I guess I could open it up. I just felt like 1 degree was something I was fine with. I guess I could make it 77 to 79 and that would maybe alleviate it.
Oh, I was just thinking have the chiller kick on when it gets quite a bit warmer than that. I mean, 80 or maybe even 81,
That
you
might
know.
be a
Why
thing.
why have your chiller running, especially in Texas in the middle of summer? Give it a
Well,
little bit more time.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
the corals can tolerate some swings in temperature, right? So,
yeah, and his tank, it's a 600-gallon Peninsula room divider inside of his house on just on the other side of the wall. But you know, again, I wasn't trying to get too much into it. But again, I said the client is nice, but there's been some things about the tank that I've sort of been not fighting with him on, but like he went and we spent $5,000 in new lights 2 years ago in the so it has an upper canopy on it. That's huge. It's like the upper canopy, you could put like 2 refrigerators inside of this upper canopy, but it's not ventilated. And he has had 2 radions burn out. And it's
mm,
like, man, you got to ventilate that. And he said, well, how would we do that? And I said, well, I would use those 4-inch AC Infinity fans. I'd probably put 4 of them on his top, and I would do the thing that Matt, you taught me, which is draw in air from the room and push it into the canopy instead of sucking air from the canopy and pushing it out into the room. That's also good for the fans. It'll make the fans last longer. But he was worried about that. I don't want to, I'm not trying to berate the guy, but it's sort of frustrating. He's a very smart, very wealthy guy, but he was worried about what that would do to the temperature of his house. And it's a literal like 6,000 square foot mansion or 8,000 square foot mansion. And I was trying to politely tell him, it's like, man, that will do nothing to this cavernous room that this is in. But
right.
he's dragging his heels on it. And I can't, again, that's what I try to tell people is the weird thing about whether you're doing this for yourself or you're doing this as a business. Like I can make decisions or, but you know, I'm in other people's houses. It's ultimately not my say so what happens. I can only make suggestions and hope they go for it. But after burning out 2 radions, I'm like, dude, we need to ventilate this because also ventilating that canopy should take some workload off the chiller and will
Hmm.
keep these radions from burning out.
And we're thinking that the chiller is overdrawing because it's pulling in super hot air.
Yeah, it's probably fighting itself a little bit because it's only sitting passively against this grate where it's supposed to be pushing hot air passively through this grate under its own power. But I think there needs to be some sort of fan on that grate physically, Vornado or whatever, maybe a bigger than a 4-inch AC Infinity, drawing it out. But that, like I said, with that one, he was, you know, he's got a Bentley, a Ferrari, a Porsche, and something or other in this garage. And so he sort of put it to me. He's like, what would that do to my cars? And it's like, man, I'm not trying to be liable for that. I don't think it would do anything, but I don't want to be the jerk that you start finding rust spots on your Testarossa, and that's my fault. Like, you know.
And what you could do is the exact opposite. Just have your fan inside the room pointed outside, you know,
Yeah.
through those slats.
Yeah.
And it'll pull car air into the into the chiller space.
Now, like I said, it's weird. There's an AC vent inside that filtration room that blows cold air. The weird thing is it's not, I think the cooler thing would have one of those split systems where you could tell that room what temperature to be, but the AC just comes on when the rest of his house comes on, irregardless
Mm.
of what's going on in the room. Every time I go in the room, it's pretty chill, not crazy chill, because usually during the summer I open that door and the damn chiller's running. The chiller runs too much. But so if I took air from the garage and pushed it in, I'm actually pushing hot air because the garage stays hot.
Yeah, you may just, I mean, you may get some benefit from just pointing a fan, not trying to get it in or out of the room, but just pointing a fan directly at the chiller.
To mix it
And
a little
it
bit.
just mix up the room the same way like a power head would work in a tank, right? You're just
Yeah.
mixing it better.
Yeah, I had this room gets hot because all the equipment's up at the top, so it gets hot at the ceiling, and then it can be 85 degrees in the first 2 feet by the ceiling, and it's 70 down where I'm sitting right now. And I put a big transom fan that I had, an extra one, to just blow when it gets over 79 degrees up there, and it's made a huge difference in the room.
Matt would go into your house and his face would be hot.
Yeah, if he came in here before, it would just melt off.
He's like, why is it so hot in here? And you're chilly.
My face is already hot.
Yeah, baby.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
PolypLab, PolypLab. Every time I say PolypLab, I want you to put your polyps in the sky.
Wow, 1984 called and wants its rap back.
Yes.
Ah,
PolypLab is so conducive to hip hop genre.
they is. They is. I love PolypLab. Here's the food that I use a lot from there. It's called Reef Roids. You probably heard of it. As I'm getting ready for coral spawning coming up in a few months, I'm thinking about having all these kind of powdered foods like this around for my baby's corals. I'm also feeding the crap out of them now, feeding the adult corals. They got to get fed to produce the eggs. So this is one of the products I love very much from who, Ben?
PolypLab. And today I took some pictures of a client's tank and I used that little gel filter that you put on your camera that cuts all the blue out and it makes your photos look a lot better.
From PolypLab. And maybe our other two sponsors, you can get PolypLab products there.
It's possible.
Yeah. Check them out.
PolypLab.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
So this is our guest, Matt Wandell. We've known Matt forever and ever since before reefs.org was a thing. And I worked with Matt for a long time, and Ben used
Is
to
a
sell his
former lover.
body.
Yeah.
Sell his body to Matt. And Matt's now at the Monterey Bay Aquarium doing awesome stuff. Matt, how is your personal tank?
I don't have a personal tank anymore. I got rid of I had 2 tanks. I got rid of them last year. I had a 10-gallon. The 10-gallon was pretty awesome. It was actually one of those Amano tanks, those really low iron glass, weird
ULM or
proportions. It was meant to be God, I forget what they call them, but you pick them up. So like Houston, Ben, you will know this. We have an Aqua Design Amano store
Yeah.
near me in San Francisco, and they're awesome stores, and so I could go pick that one up. Anyway, it had kind of neat proportions. It was meant to be a planet tank, but it was a reef tank. I had a little captive bred Collins Angel in there, which has always been one of my favorite fish. And then I had a 25-gallon that was dedicated to SPS. Things were humming along, jamming.
Yeah, they look great.
I was happy to sort of break them down when I did, because it wasn't like, oh, I broke these down because they were just turning into shit. They were at their peak. I was like, all right, I'm out. Like, drop the mic.
Crazy town.
And I also kind of realized that, I haven't had a tank traditionally for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so. I've been working at a public aquarium, and unlike Rich, I'm not an insane person. So I don't want to keep tanks at home. But during COVID, I was sitting at home all the time. My new job, I'm not really getting my hands wet a whole lot. And I was like, I will set up a tank, because I'm just sitting here at home all the time, not going out, not going to clubs and sports events and da 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 da. And then COVID ended, and I still had the tanks. And it was like, I came to that sudden realization that, oh, there's a whole big world out there that I can be spending time in, rather than wasting time with my fish tank in my home all the time. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah.
Am I on the right podcast?
You are. We want to talk about burnout's a thing.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
Who does that? What's wrong with you people?
We are.
No,
stupid.
I do miss. I'll see like people growing corals on. There's something obsessive and a little insane about how fun it is to grow corals, and I'll still see that stuff on social media and go like, oh, maybe I could just set it up, just a little one, and it'll be simple this time, and it won't take an hour a day of maintenance.
That's sort of weird, right? Because it's like, once you whatever that is, but like if you're dedicated yourself enough to this hobby, that one day you're like, damn, I get this. And it's funny because no matter how long you've been doing this, you still can screw stuff up and stuff can not go your way. But a lot of the joy comes with sticking with it and getting to a point where it's like, I can grow SPS if I want to, and you do, and it's just like a different level.
Yeah, there were certainly some errors I made on that tank in the beginning. I think the last time I was on here, we talked about when I did like 100 times dose of Alpha Reef.
Yeah.
But then everything recovered, and the cool thing is, is when you get to that. I mean, 99% of the experience is that sort of pure joy of you're not racking your brain and searching on the internet and trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. It's more about just like, I know that I can put these pieces together. It's probably like, when you become a very good cook at home, you don't need to agonize about how this is going to taste and that all that stuff. You just go, I know I have these things and I can put them together in this order, and it's all just fun. And I'm listening to music and I'm just loving it. That's for me how having a tank is at home. It's just pure joy when stuff's just going great and corals are growing. So I kind of miss it, but yeah, I don't know. I've also done a lot of that in my life, and I still get to see it at work all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
I know you guys are working on a new setup at the Monterey MB. Oh, that's Woods Hole. Sorry.
Spit it out. Spit it out.
We're not going to make you our spokesperson. If
No,
that's how you
don't,
say the name of our aquarium.
not today. The Monterey Bay Aquarium.
That's right. There you go.
Can you talk about the new Reef at all? That's the new exhibit that's going up.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it a little bit. So people who are familiar with the Monterey Bay Aquarium will know that we have a little area that's meant for kids that's called Splash Zone, and it's really kind of a mix of kids play area and also like the one spot in the building where we have a lot of tropical stuff. Most of the Monterey Bay Aquarium is dedicated to featuring local species from the Monterey Bay area and California area, with a small section. I think it's a grand total of around, 4,000 gallons of tanks that we have that are tropical. They're the stuff that us hobbyists would kind of recognize all these things. And that exhibit is showing its age. It was intended to be a temporary, like 1 or 2 year exhibit back in, I want to say 1999. So it's definitely showing its age, and we're going to renovate it next year and replace it with a lot of the same theme stuff, warm tropical live coral tanks. And I'm not going to get too much into the details of what it's going to feature, but it's going to be awesome. And it's going to have a great big coral tank. It's in the neighborhood of like 5,000 or 6,000 gallons that I am stoked about. I'm looking forward to it getting built, and we'll unveil it sometime late next year.
Awesome. I know more than you're allowed to say, and I cannot wait for this tank to exist.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm kind of losing my mind waiting for this tank to be in public already.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
could talk about this, but like when somewhere like the Monterey Bay Aquarium is going to do something like that, like is it done off of like the revenue that it makes through the door, or is it done by like someone donated big or something like that?
That's a very good question, Ben. It's typically not from revenue through the door. Usually our earned income, so revenue at the door and memberships and stuff like that, is used to pay for operations. So feeding the fish, maintenance of pumps, people's salaries, which is massive, of course. It's basically to keep things going, right? To keep things status quo, in a sense, is an easier way of thinking about it. And then sort of that extra money is used for new exhibits. It's donations. Yeah. So this one is I don't know the funding sources, to be honest, but it's mostly donations and such.
But that's crazy. I don't know if that's how it works, but I have this image where like the people that run MBA are the type of people that go to like galas and stuff like that. And, they try to go to those things where wealthy people are, and they're like, oh, we're trying to get there. I don't know how that works, but, they got to schmooze or it's some like old millionaire dude or whatever was like, oh, I always loved that place. And he's going to croak, and he's like, give him 10 million bucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix of. I'm not too familiar with the process, to be honest. We have like what's called a development division, which is I'm sure probably every nonprofit has one or something similar, which is basically just going out and getting funding for that kind of thing.
Getting drunk at galas.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's other. I don't think it's just getting drunk, yes, but there's other ways of doing it, and we have very generous board members that they pitch in money to. The executive director, who's retiring this year, Julie Packard, is the daughter of David Packard of Hewlett Packard, who is part of the Packard Foundation, and they have you know, significant funds at their disposal, let's say, and they're able to donate money to us too for special projects and things that are worth funding. And hey, the whole goal of it, I mean, is to inspire conservation of the ocean. And so when you talk about that, there's people that come to us. I don't know. Again, I don't know a ton about the process, but I don't think there's a whole bunch of us kind of begging for money. There's a lot of people out there who fortunately are very giving with their money and want it to go to good causes. So yeah,
That's cool.
I get the feeling that in Ben's head, everybody in business like wears a monocle and hey buddy, I'd like to give you some money
Well,
for an exhibit.
and the lighting the cigars with dollar bills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
You corner them in a dark ballroom and hit them up for a new reef tank.
What got us to get Matt back on this show, not only is Matt awesome, but I posted something and then Matt beefed about it, kind of. It's not the super beef, but I wrote this with nothing else and put it on the Reef Beef, one of the Reef Beef socials. And it says, but basically, algae is really good at life and grows gangbusters on wild reefs with nitrate generally less than 0.2 and phosphate generally less than 0.03. So much algae grows in these environments that legions of herbivores thrive there. And when you remove the herbivores, algae takes over. Corals are not as good at life as algae, and NMP at levels that will actually stop algae growth will make corals suffer. Plus, there are a million successful reef tanks that have high NNP and that manage algae just fine. And Matt wrote, this looks like something I wrote almost word for word 15 years ago. And at the time, there were people with torches and pitchforks saying that lowering your nutrients was the only way to solve algae problems. That's pretty much what you wrote and what. So that was the funny thing about this was I've started looking at some new reefers groups again just to see what's going on, because I'm fascinated with why I don't want to participate in newbie groups. It might be different for everybody. I'm trying to discover that about me. Why don't I like it? And so this was just, I was just writing this from memory because I was in that thread from RC that Matt talked about 15 years ago, because we have one brain and we've been talking like this for, it seems like ever. And somebody was telling me, no, NMP are the most critical thing and that makes algae grow. There was also another thread that was telling me that corals don't spawn. I should do my research. You can't have crossbreeds of corals. They don't do that.
That's when Richard goes, oh,
how do they
tell me
reproduce
more.
exactly?
Do your research. And I thought that was pretty funny. But this one was more interesting to me. So there, I said a bunch of what happened. Somebody else say words now.
Matthew.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's funny. I was under the impression that the paradigm had sort of shifted in the hobby and that sort of everybody was on board with what Rich, you and I have been talking about for, I don't know, forever. I mean, I know, so I got into the hobby in 1999, and I know back then and later on when phosphate became a thing, I don't even think phosphate was a thing back then. It wasn't a thing until people could test for it. And then GFO was a thing and all that. And I remember for many years that was the thing, is you wanted undetectable nitrate and undetectable phosphate. And if you look back at pick your tank of the month website back then, I think people would kind of say it with sort of pride that, oh, I have undetectable nitrate, undetectable phosphate. That's the thing. And then back then too, remember Zeovit's thing was to keep that stuff ultra low. And the longer I did stuff, I was realizing that I had tanks where nitrate and phosphate were not that low. And then the other thing that I was noticing, so I forget when it was, but I went to the Waikiki Aquarium and I learned a lot about Joe Waiulo's tank in Long Island. And in both cases, they just had phenomenal coral growth. And in both cases, they weren't running ultra low nutrients. They were quite a bit higher. And then at the same time, I was also learning about where I now work, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and they had fantastic looking corals. And the Monterey Bay water is certainly not anywhere close to ultra low nutrients. It's actually quite high in nutrients. And all these tanks look great, and so it's like, okay, and they're not being overrun by algae. And then my personal husbandry experience has just been that if you start a tank up, and everybody can try this if they want to, fill up a 10-gallon tank, put some live rock in it, put lights on it, skim the hell out of it, do whatever you want, run GFO, get your nitrate down to 0, and algae, and don't put any snails in, don't put anything in. Algae is going to grow like crazy. You'll never get it low enough. I mean, I suppose if you didn't put any fish in ever and just stopped feeding it entirely, eventually it would strip out all that stuff. But that's not a fish tank. That's a lab experiment. If you're feeding animals, even if your phosphate test says 0 and your nitrate test says 0, it is not, I promise you, because you are putting nitrogen into the tank. You're putting phosphorus into the tank. There is nitrogen and phosphorus in all food. And it is at some point available to, it's dissolved in the water at some point, even if it's transiently, and even if it's very lower than your test kit can detect. And algae have been on the planet for billions of years, and they are very well adapted to extracting those resources out of the water. That's why there's very little of it on a reef, because everything is very jealously grabbing that stuff out of the water and converting it into biomass. And yeah, what worked for me was keeping those things not low, because the other problem you start to run into is that the corals, you can starve your corals. Corals can get a little bit too low on those, and they start to get pale and they don't grow as fast. And in my opinion, they just don't look as good. So keeping those numbers, you're not ignoring the nutrient numbers. You're not trying to get them sky high or anything, but keeping them at some non-zero number, and feeding your tank the way you would normally feed a tank, and keeping your animals well fed. And then having your good complement of herbivores accomplish the same things, and it's a hell of a lot easier, and you're not constantly worrying about, oh my god, my nitrate is 5 parts per million or 10 parts per million, and that's a source of stress for me. So
why do you think the hobby is still so excited about chasing those two particular numbers? I mean, we've literally been having this exact conversation for 15 years, if not longer, saying the exact same thing. So why do you think people are still nuts about lowering algae and not algae, nitrate and phosphate?
it's a very good question. I honestly don't know. I feel like I'm bad at understanding the general psyche of hobbyists. I just do things a little bit differently in all kinds of ways. But I would just suggest to somebody, go look at, I think this is like one of the most beautiful tanks I've seen out there in the world. That's done at a local scale, local hobbyists. So you can't claim, oh, well, you're a public aquarium. That's a little different. Joseph, I think his last name is Gosha. Joseph Gosha. Carolina Coral Heads.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys know who this guy is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his tank is phenomenal. It's like
Awesome.
world class. It's not. He's not photoshopping his stuff. It's amazing. He's also just a gem of a human being, and has very simple methods. He's doing everything manually, and his nitrate is around 10 to 15 parts per million. His phosphate is like, I think he used 0.07 to 0.1 parts per million. That's the last time I spoke with him. I think that was like around a year ago, but that was also, I mean, he may have changed since then. I don't know, or it might be the same. And his tank looks phenomenal. Your corals will not suffer. He doesn't have algae growing all over the place. If anything, I think it's probably a net benefit to your corals. I think there's a limit to it. I don't think you want to bump your nitrate up to 100 and go, oh, if a little is good, then a lot must be great, right? No bad reason to keep it kind of lowish, but making sure there's always something there. It's just so much easier.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about this the other day because I'm a nerd, and the taking our initial cues from what's going on in the wild makes a lot of sense, right? So phosphate is 0.03 or less, right? So that made sense to start with, but the problem isn't, or the issue isn't, the issue we care about is how much is too much, not. And I think we're finding out with phosphate that it takes a lot actually for it to be too much. You know,
Mhm.
like 0.5 or 0.9 or 1 might be too much. So, for instance, now I'm keeping mine, my phosphate at like below 0.5, right? And
Right.
it's usually about between 0.1 and 0.2. That just with the auto water changes and the lanthanum and the skimmer, and it's easy and it just kind of stays there. But I don't really get any kind of worry to like 0.5 or higher. And that's only because that's the arbitrary kind of height that I've set for myself. Um, and I think maybe we do really bad in the lack of in the in the lack of information. Oxygen is everything. Too much of anything will kill you or your tank, right? But what is the too much is a really important question. And I think combined with the idea of that more phosphate means more algae, I think, Ben, what do you think? How do we kind of deal with that way of thinking?
It's tricky because what do we do when we set up an aquarium? Like when you first set one up, you're setting up what is not a reef. You're putting in these little frags and there's a lot of rock exposure and this and that. And if you have elevated nutrients, the algae is certainly going to show up on spots where corals are not, which is a lot at that point. But like when I'm setting up a tank for a client, I'm just trying to get a lot of corals in there as fast as possible, make them happy, make them grow. And it's like me sort of tiptoeing through the little window where you could get algae problems, but I address those with herbivores. And then if you can get, you get a year down the road or so and corals are just blowing up, it's I always feel like a weirdo because people are talking about their nitrate levels and phosphate levels. Huge amount of my clients, I haven't even looked at what those levels are. And like, I have a client I haven't tested nitrate or phosphate in a decade. And I have a tank that I show online all the time, and people are like, "Whoa, what are your nitrates?" I have no freaking idea. I think
Hmm.
I did test it like 2 years ago, and it was 5. And then so I was like, went back to like, I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying is like, I think that some of those nutrients that could fuel algae are going to be an issue from the beginning of the race to until you get corals happy. And I think that's where noobs get tripped up because they don't know what it takes to make a coral happy. Whereas I set the tank up and I'm just trying to peel out and burn rubber, getting to making corals happy. So to where nitrate and phosphate aren't an issue and I don't have to think about it, which is most of my clients. I don't test for it at all. I don't know what it is. I go and do a regular water change and keep the alkalinity up and cut up corals. And I don't even look at what the nutrient levels are.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you? Yep.
Hey, let's thank our beefers.
Dude, we can never thank them enough. It's the whole impetus of you and me being on the internet and being silly is to entertain our crowd.
And to hopefully give some information.
Yeah.
Thank you for just listening to the show or sharing the show around. That really helps us a lot, or for smushing like and all that kind of stuff. We also have ways that you can give us money. So Snowman wants you to know about that. But I'm thinking about that. I give Very Bad Wizards and Sam Harris money because I like what they're doing. I almost never listen to their the ways you give them money, you get access to stuff. I almost never listen to it. I just like that they're out there doing stuff, and here's some money that I can help support them. And that's what a lot of beefers tend to tell us, that we're just happy that you guys are out there doing the thing you're doing because you're talking about stuff that other people don't talk about. So
Feed the machine.
feed the machine. We are big reefing. We will be eventually. There's no way. So you can just give us a coffee, or you can become a member, buy us a beer. We have different levels. So if you just buy us a beer, that's awful nice of you to buy us a beer. But we have some levels that you can give to us on an ongoing basis. The bronze level, you get to submit questions. You get a coupon for 10% off of merch. We got a bunch of new merch coming, by the way. You get access to the members only, and you get a name and a color name on the Discord, and our eternal gratitude. And that's like $8 a month. And then silver includes everything, but you get 30% off. You get an annual subscription to Coral Magazine
Oh,
after 3 months of being a member, and that's $15 a month. The gold member includes everything, and you get one quarterly call with me or Ben. You get a free piece of merch, and you can be a guest on the show, and your name is read in the credits, and that's $50 a month. And then the prime, I don't even want to talk about it. It's so much money,
Secret.
and it's great. And we have 2 prime members, and it really makes a huge difference, and we really thank them so much.
Big time.
So there's plenty of ways you can support us. You can just listen or watch. That's great. You can like and share, which is great. Or you can throw us some jingle every once in a while, and that helps us do bigger projects and keeps us flush in the equipment we need to do the show. And we've now got 4 people helping us. We've got Snowman, Snowflake, Snow Buddy, and Snow Leopard. So we got 4 people that are helping us make stuff happen on the show. And
I don't even know most of them.
you don't know? No, it's not important that you do. And thank you to everyone who supported us in any way ever so far. And thanks to people who support us on an ongoing basis. It really, really helps us become excited about the show. Right, Ben?
I have a request. If you watch this video on YouTube, come down into the comments. Give me something to riff off of. Come talk to me in the comments.
Some riffs. So thank you, beefers. We wouldn't be doing this without you.
Are those roast beef shower curtains behind you?
Yep. Is it worth talking at all? Because we say herbivores. Herbivores, like it's this monolithic thing. Like you just go to the store and say, I want me some herbivores.
Yeah.
Buy me a pack of herbivores. Is it worth talking a little bit about like what herbivores we mean when we say that, and like
Oh, for
how to
No.
implement them?
No,
Okay.
no,
okay,
we don't want to
next
give
topic.
no useful information on
No.
All right.
No, yeah. Talk about go ahead. Go. Say
Well, you
first.
can, if you Venmo me $10, I'll tell you. I'll just tell you the link right now to the information. No.
Wait,
right,
that's how
Albert.
you guys get money to set up those accounts.
Yeah, that's right. $10 at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll just explain what kind of my philosophy is with herbivores, and then maybe you guys can talk about it too. But I usually do. I like snails and urchins, and I would say a really important thing is, gosh, get them in there before the algae becomes an issue. This is that sort of putting yourself in the brain of a snail. And this is the thing with snails and urchins too. They will mow down stuff even if they don't want to eat it when it's really, really short, right? You can imagine an algae spore landing on a rock somewhere. And even if it's some noxious algae that they would never eat if it was a foot long, when it first lands, if you just constantly have little Roombas doing this all over everything, they're going to eat that, whether they like it or not, because it's so small. Now you let it grow to a patch that's the size of a playing card and it's got 6 foot or 6-inch long tufts of stuff. Now they're just going to work around it because a Roomba detects that as a wall, right? But when it's teeny tiny little stuff, they're going to keep it clean. So get the herbivores in there while your rocks are still clean. It probably sounds a little weird because they don't have anything to eat yet. So maybe you wait a few days, a week, right, before you put them in there. But you don't want the algae to develop. That is the really critical part. And if it ever does, you got to get in there and be the herbivore and brush the shit out of it. But if you are constantly, like every week, brushing anything in your tank, you're doing it wrong. You got to get to a point where there's some herbivore that is mowing that down. And then once it's mowed down, snails and urchins will take care of everything. They should, my experience. I like Trocus snails. Zebra Trocus I freaking love because they seem like they eat everything. They're not bulldozers. They never get huge. They also reproduce in our tanks, and you'll see the babies everywhere eventually. I like tuxedo urchins, and I also kind of like diadema urchins if you have a big enough tank. Diademas will kind of nibble on coralline too, and maybe scratch acrylic if they're not getting enough to eat. And they get really big, so you got to make sure you have a big tank. But they do a fantastic job of eating all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of other stuff too, but I love those things. Turbo snails and Astrea snails and nearite snails. People have all kinds of stuff. That's all good too, but my home tanks, that had a shit ton of light on them, and I was keeping the nitrate at like 5 parts per million and the phosphate at like 0.10. Had no trace of algae anywhere. You know, you have to wipe the glass like you always do. And that was purely tuxedo. I think I had one tuxedo urchin in there and quite a few zebra trochus, and that was it. And the other nice thing is those zebra trochus, when the babies, if there's available algae, when the babies raise up, you sort of reach the carrying capacity of the tank. And yeah, that's my strategy. Do you need tangs? Do you need rabbitfish? I don't think so. If you think they're cool looking, sure, go for it. But I don't think that they're necessary for algae control. It's nice to have them in there. They certainly help.
What do you think about microfauna?
Oh, absolutely. Totally. They do an amazing job, right? My favorite tank that I love to talk about when this topic comes up is I had a mantis shrimp tank when I was at Steinhardt, and there's other tanks that I've had over the years that are the same. They don't have any fish in them. And when you don't have fish in a tank or anything that eats copepods and mysids and stuff, the tank just blows up with that stuff. And amphipods and copepods will make a significant dent in your algae population, especially if, again, you're getting them in there when the rocks are clean. That mantis shrimp tank I had, it had no herbivore. Every snail I tried to put in there would get smashed to smithereens, of course. So I had nothing in there. It would even smash up urchins. But the rocks were covered with corals, and the few spots that were open, there was just a shit ton of amphipods in there and copepods, and they were just nibbling it all down.
Awesome.
They'll make a big impact, right? If you know, if you let them. So
I got two interesting stories for you. My tank, my display now, there's a couple places where I've got algae growing that the herbivores kind of just can't get to. And so the algae has killed off some coral in some area, you know, inside at the tips at the growing edge, and nothing can get in there because there's too much flow right there, or there's too many other corals around to not let snails or urchins get in there. So I think at that point you're a victim of your own success, and you know, you've let something grow and you've let the algae get a toehold. The best way to deal with that is to smother it or clip it out, right? Instead of fighting it. Also, converting in your head that algae is is something that you just manage. You know, I think people get into their heads the idea that, you know, if only I had set all the dials correctly, I would never have to touch my reef tank again. Mwahaha.
right.
And I think that's crazy. I think that's just not. I mean, I appreciate that there's a million ways to go at it, but my whole reefing life has become so much easier as I've leaned into the idea that the dishes are never done. And, you know, you're always going to be managing algae. You're always going to be managing coral growth. And when corals grow, they die from the bottom up. And that's where you might get some algae growing on that dead. So you constantly have to be, dealing with your own success at growing corals, because it's a dynamic living system. The one other thing I'll add is that all herbivores are not the same, and different herbivores for different things are often very useful. I've got in this cube tank here with the weird anemones in it, I was having a real bubble algae problem. And, you know, there's no room for a fish that might eat the bubble algae. The bubble algae is bigger than the tuxedo urchins want to eat. Tuxedos really don't go to town on bubble algae. Tuxedos are not an aggressive urchin. Like a Lidocainus is more aggressive. And, you know, the diadema are even more aggressive. But I've got some urchins that I was trying that I got from Todd Gardner that are East Coast America urchins. And I'm a little nervous with them with coral, but these urchins eat right down to the rock. They eat all the coralline. They go right down. And where these urchins have been able to hit in there, there's no more bubble algae. It's gone. And the only places that there are bubble algae now is where the urchins can't get to because they're too big. So I actually just asked Todd if he's got any smaller ones that I can buy from him, because I have a specific thing for something that size to take care of. And I think once it gets under control, it won't be an issue anymore. It's just I'm going through, you know, the algae, the bubble algae started to win. Oh, I know why, because I can't have as many herbivores in there as I would like. It's
Right.
you know, just the way it is. So again, the idea of it being dynamic and you have to try different things, and rather than looking at it like the end of the world, it's just I think it's cool that it's just another problem to be solved. And I think it's easier and cheaper to get a different herbivore to try than it is to spend all that money on testing and then adjusting your levels. I think that that can run you down an expensive hole. What do
Yeah.
you
Yeah. No, Valonia was the one thing I didn't talk about. And I guess Bryopsis and there's all kinds of algae that are, you know, I should say zebra trochus and tuxedo urchins are not going to eat all that shit, right? Valonia. There's special cases, of course. Hopefully you don't get Valonia in your tank, but if you do, you know, emerald crabs. I actually was staying ahead of Valonia just by picking it out manually. And again, with the urchins and the snails going to town, I don't think that you know, if there's a big fat Valonia bubble, they're not going to eat it, right? But when that stuff lands, and one of the nicest things that the realization, I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of this now, but back when I started in the hobby, everybody was like, oh, you shouldn't touch the Valonia. If you pop a Valonia, it will make everything worse. So it was this stupid thing where we were like, oh, we're afraid to touch the Valonia. And then it would spread all over the tank. And the reasoning was if you pop a Valonia, it will make the Valonia spread all over the place. So we weren't touching it, so it was spreading anyway. It's not true. It's just, I don't know where that came from.
It was Richard
that
that showed me. It was before I even knew him. It was Richard that I learned that was bullshit. Because man, sitting in a store, that's why I told everybody, don't touch it, it'll release spores.
Right. And my thought on that
and
was
then murder you, right?
yeah. And my thought was, wait a minute. If popping it releases spores, fish and emerald crabs are popping them. How is this doesn't make any sense to me at all. So
yeah.
Then I found a phycologist who would answer my question, but they only answer it in phycologist speak. There are no spores in the eyeballs. That's not how they reproduce.
Right.
So
get yourself a pair of those little pointy tweezers, you know, the really sharp ones that, you know, you can jab your eye out with, not the blunt ones. And whenever you see, they're so easy to spot, and just nail them, just grab them when they're small and yank them.
Yeah.
And you'll get to a point where it's like you go into your tank, you know, once a week, and there's maybe 2 or 3 of them, and you pop them, and you never let it get big. I was doing that, and that was just a heck of a lot easier than buying an emerald crab for me. But an emerald crab would probably do the same thing. You do have to watch out for those guys trying to eat fish if they get big enough and they're not well fed. But feed your tank, and that's not a problem, and they'll find plenty of food to eat. So yeah.
You know, I'm an avid gardener, and it's like you have to pull weeds. Okay, sure, there's strategies you could put stuff down to avoid weeds. I think it's a little silly sometimes, but you have to go in your garden and pull some weeds out sometimes. That's similar to that. Like the idea that you're like, oh, I'm supposed to get in there and remove those bubble algae. It's like you're one of the herbivores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys ever done the thing with fluconazole where you put that in your tank?
Yeah, I did, but
Not me.
I think 6 times I did it. 3 times it worked. 3 times it didn't do anything, but it's hit and miss.
Yeah, I've never done it.
I've never done it either. I love the idea that people are trying all kinds of new ways. I guess I would just like the bulk of people not to jump on the bleeding edge of husbandry. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I love the idea of, you know, maybe we will find out that there are some levels or some ratio that is a magic number. I don't think we are, but maybe that a magic ratio will make all the difference in the world. And I love people chasing that down. But I would love people who are not the crazy people in the hobby to not mess with ratios. You know what I mean? It's like
the people that say The people that say like the ratio between their nitrate and phosphate, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see much evidence for that. There's some, it's not all that compelling to me. And there's certainly tons of counterexamples is the thing. It's the counterexamples that get me the most. There are so many counterexamples of tanks with high nutrients and no algal problems that just saying, that here's your easy answer doesn't make sense to me. But maybe there will be an easy answer. And I love people who are looking for that. I just want everybody else to be reasonable in the meantime. So we, look, we don't have Zeovit anymore. It's gone, right? Do you know anybody who's running a Zeovit tank? I'm sure there's a few, but it is just not the thing it was, and that was going to revolutionize everything. And if you just switched to Zeovit and put there and shook the thing every day and put the powders in, everything was going to be perfect. And
but you remember
happened.
on those tanks, I remember this is everyone always called them pastel sticks because like the SPS were always not, they were sickly.
I was always a little bit jealous of those tanks. I thought those tanks looked really cool in their way.
Yeah.
If you ask me if they look natural, they look completely unnatural. But at the same time, look at the tanks you see on Instagram and everywhere else nowadays, and there's nothing natural about it.
Yeah.
People are putting, things that are just the most highlighter neon crazy, and then they put all their actinics on, and none of that is, of course, natural. If you go to a wild reef, everything's brown with little splashes of color here and there, but mostly brown and tan color, right? At least for the photosynthetic corals. My experience, just the stuff near the top. You get your yellows and greens in there, but certainly nothing that looks like what some of the really fancy coral tanks look like. But I mean, the Zeovit, the Zeovit stuff is. I was always jealous because they looked like they got phenomenal growth, and the colonies looked amazing. I mean, it was amazing looking. But it's true, I don't see that anywhere anymore, and I don't know why. Are people still doing it in Europe? I don't know.
Well, part of the deal, right, was like 50 bottles of $30 bottles of all this weird crap you had to put in there.
Yeah, but how's that any different than
the
ICP tests
or the
ICP tests and
Triton? Moonshine.
Yeah, moonshiners and Triton and all this other stuff.
The different flavor of moonshine.
You don't have a Zeovit bed anymore. Now you have a refugium, which is supposed to be doing the magic. It's fascinating to me that people want to add stuff, and I think as you do the hobby more and you tinker more, you add this new thing to you and you can have it for a year or two, and then you start neglecting it, and then you remove it and you go, oh, okay, well, that didn't really pan out because I don't miss it anymore. And everyone's kind of got to go through that. You've got to go through your own journey on this road to Hobbyville. And I get that. And, everyone keeps their tank differently. And that's fine. It's just, I'm so interested in the overarching message of the generalities of what to do. And I mean, I did a talk about algae in this a couple of years ago, and I started to go through, oceanography textbooks to find an example of, sequestering off the reef from herbivores and what happens. And it's kind of like, it's such basic marine biology science that it's hard to find a paper that covers it anymore, because it's just kind of like, here's the experiment you do when you're at, a sea camp out in the Bahamas or whatever for 3 weeks. It's like, oh, we'll put a cage over this area. What do you think's going to happen? And what do you think's going to happen? Algae's going to grow there. And that's what happens on wild reefs with these really low numbers. So
yeah, far lower than when we say phosphate 0.03 too. That's quite high.
Yeah, that's the high end.
You go to a reef in the Marshall Islands or Palau or somewhere, that's getting the full brunt of oceanic currents. It's way lower than 0.03.
Yeah.
It's vanishingly low, way lower than you'll ever get it in your tank. I mean, you could probably get it that low in your tank if you just stop feeding everything, right? But and the algae's still there, it's still growing.
The way I always looked at that was that same phenomenon where like a rainforest in South America, they say like the soil is poor, nutrient poor, but you see all that growth. So it's like the second something dies and drops nutrients, some other plant is like, oh, but you're left with soil itself that's super nutrient poor. Same thing, I guess.
Exactly.
Head like
It,
like the water above a reef.
yes, it's the same exact phenomena. It's basically the quote is something along the lines of, I didn't come up with this, somebody else did, but a reef is not nutrient poor. It's nutrient. The nutrients are there, right? They're all bound up in copepods and a little bit of algae on the reef and in a lot of corals and in the fish, and they're all there. They're just not dissolved in the water because, like you say, everything is jealous and everything wants those nutrients and just snatches them up really quickly because they're all adapted to do that. So there's just vanishingly little available.
Yeah. There's a reason we
And
put
there's a dog.
we put all of our foods in plastic because everything wants to
Right.
eat them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt, what would you tell a new person about nutrients? I mean, how are we just dead horsing this? And it's
No, I don't think so. I would say they're worth, I would say it's definitely worth paying attention to, especially early on. Get yourself a cheapo nitrate test kit. Get yourself a cheapo phosphate test kit. The checkers are cool, right? The little Hannah checkers, I like those. Those are easy. And track it. And it's cool to track it. And I would say it's actually valuable to track it. I was tracking mine at home to make sure that I wasn't going to zero. For that purpose, I was trying to do the opposite of what I was trying to do 20 years ago, which is, I got to drop these things. I got to lower them. I got to lower them. I got to grow algae in a refugium. I got to run GFO, get these things down. And yeah, that's where I started. Actually, in my home tank, I was having this weird phenomenon that I wasn't expecting. It's kind of a long story, but I was dropping them because I was inadvertently carbon dosing without realizing it.
okay.
But I was quickly getting them to nitrate and phosphate down to zero, and that was causing corals to get pale. And then what I eventually settled on was adding a little bit of phosphate and a little bit of nitrogen, not as nitrate, but as ammonia, into the tank to sort of simulate food in a way, or simulate those nutrients as food.
Why not just food?
Well, I had a limit on how many fish I could put in there. So putting more pellet food in there just seemed a little bit silly. Then you just got pellets just sitting on the bottom rotting. That's not doing anything any good. And I was actually adding quite a bit of liquid food in the form of Reef nutrition foods. So this was the genesis of sort of what was a mystery to me at first, but I slowly figured out, which other people might encounter. I don't know. It's worth knowing that Reef nutrition foods are these little, you stick them in the fridge, and it's phytoplankton and it's copepods and it's all kinds of stuff that are in sort of this thick, almost like salad dressing thickness goo, and that preserves them much longer than they would normally be preserved. Well, the way that preservative works is that it's organic acids, and I forget the list, but it's like citric acid and all sorts of other acids, and there's alginate in there as well. Those are organic molecules, and so they are doing the same thing that vodka or vinegar do when you dose those to your tank, and that's what's called carbon dosing, right? So when you add Reef nutrition foods to your tank, you're carbon dosing. And at least in my experience, the carbon dose was more powerful than the amount of food in there. So it was very counterintuitive. Adding more Reef nutrition food resulted in lower nitrogen, nitrate, and phosphate in my water, because I had a very powerful skimmer. It was that carbon dosing is turning into bacterial biomass and pulling out nitrogen and phosphorus with it. And so my usual responses to those being low is add more food. And I did that. I cranked up the little dosing amount of food, and that just kept it zero. And so I slowly figured it out. And then what I started doing was adding into my top off water, because my top off every day was fairly consistent. I started adding trisodium phosphate and ammonium bicarbonate, very carefully. I would definitely not recommend anybody do this unless they've done their homework and can do stoichiometry and have a nice little scale at home and all that, especially with the ammonia, because you don't want to add too much ammonia at once. But you add an amount of ammonia that's roughly the same as what your fish would be producing every day. So you can essentially recreate or like double your fish population. Think of it this way: you're doubling your fish population, but they're not pooping, they're not excreting all this other stuff that they're doing. It's only the ammonia, and then that feeds corals. Corals love it, but again, you got to keep it low. You don't want to spike it. That's toxic to everything.
Yeah.
And I
Trisodium
got that.
phosphate. I'm sorry, Matt. Trisodium
No,
phosphate
no.
is the same thing that they prep concrete floors for before you like. That's crazy. I guess
Probably.
it's like a pure form of it or something.
DSP.
I think it's used as. I think it's a preservative too.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the important thing to know is that it's totally fine to put in a tank at a very low concentration, which is easy to do, because you're basically putting in phosphate, which is what you want to be putting in it. At least in my case, not everybody's case. It's not going to help you if your phosphate is already high. It's only if you're bottoming out your phosphate. And then it's adding sodium, which there's already a shit ton of sodium in seawater. So it's such a minuscule amount that it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking if you did that too much without doing water changes, like you would off balance the sodium chloride balance.
Yeah, after 50 years of not doing water changes and adding a bunch of it.
Okay.
I mean, you'd have to. Yeah, it's such a
tiny.
small amount of phosphate, and then it's such a huge amount of sodium. Yeah, you can't buy just phosphate, right?
Yeah.
But also do water changes.
Yeah, I mean, even just small, modest water changes would take forever for that to be a problem.
Yeah.
And then the ammonium bicarbonate, the bicarbonate just basically becomes alkalinity. But again, it's such a small component of it that regular water changes are going to balance your stuff out, the calcium and alkalinity balance. But for me, that was super helpful.
You use AFR a lot, Tropic Marin Alpha Reef. I use it too, and from the way I understand it, where it uses like the calcium formate, like that's considered a form of carbon dosing as well, right?
Also carbon dosing. Yep, absolutely. So that in combination with the Reef Nutrition Foods was just basically supercharging the
Too much
process of stripping out nitrogen and phosphorus out of my tank.
Huh.
And so I just needed to add some more in.
What do you think about urea?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I forget. What is urea? Is that ammonia? I'd have to look it up.
It's there seems to be some, if you're doing ammonia, doing what was it, like 20% of your ammonia as urea, seems to be a way to make it more accessible to, or somebody's saying it's making it more accessible to your corals as an initial food. And this is kind of based on, that study that was done around, I think it was in French Polynesia, where all the birds are shitting all the time. And so the ammonia and the urea in the water right there is crazy high, and the corals are bomber. And the further away you get, the less delicious the corals become. So
yeah, sounds interesting. I mean, yeah, sure. I don't know is the answer to your question. I'd be interested to see. I mean, maybe there's a better version of it. I actually initially started out using nitrate. I was adding nitrate. That of course will increase your nitrate concentration. And then it was Sanjay and then Randy Holmes Farley that were talking about doing ammonium dosing.
Yeah.
And there's a few papers out there about some corals using ammonia a little bit. It's a little bit easier for them to use it. Seemed interesting enough, and I tried it, and it was great because before that I was seeing stuff get a little bit pale, right, and it wasn't growing as fast. And then after I did that, stuff would color up a little bit more, and you're able to just dial it in. I was dialing in my nitrate to be right around just enough, which I consider just enough. It was like 5 parts per million or something like that, right? And if it would go a little low, add a little bit more. If it went a little too high, okay, let's back off on a little bit. We don't need more than that. Yeah, it's kind of amazing how just nowadays everything is so, if you want to dial it in, if you want to get nerdy about this stuff, and
you can.
Yeah, it's all available to you. So
I mean, I've got because the sodium, the ammonia bicarb and the urea is so inexpensive. Actually, the urea is more expensive, but I got it both of them, and I haven't used them yet because I look at the amount of dry food I'm putting into my tank and I'm going, this has got to convert to ammonia very quickly.
Mhm.
So but I'm also wondering if I add just a little, maybe it'll be good. I think when I have baby corals again, I'm going to add some of it, on the idea that I'm still hitting them with the kitchen sink. So if this is another piece of food that's easier for them to get nutrition from, I'm going to add it because it's a big system.
So why not?
But I would really like to see a couple people do tanks, you know, and so we can get some side by sides, or does the ammonium actually make a difference if you've already got everything you need, or is it better on its own? It's, we keep seeing these bomber tanks shift gears and then still be bomber tanks. And I kind of go, well, that doesn't really tell me anything about any of these methods except that they all kind of work. So
Right.
there's no real pathway. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what people do. Yeah, Ben, what?
I have a nerdy question that I wonder if either of y'all could answer, because I knew that about terrestrial plants and also algae is that people think like, oh, they want nitrates, but I know the same as in terrestrial plants and algae is that they actually prefer ammonia. So then let's look at the chemical equation, the NH4 versus NO2 or NO3. So I guess my question, I'm wondering, it must be that plants are after nitrogen, and then I think it's probably easier metabolically for a plant to remove nitrogen from hydrogen versus oxygen, and that maybe that's what's going on there. They could take the nitrogen off of NO2, NO3, but it's much easier for them metabolically to take it off of hydrogen instead of oxygen.
It's a good nerd question. I don't know.
Yeah, nerd question.
If someone knows,
papers.
let us know.
There's
No,
papers out there
Yeah,
that
we need.
that would say either one was more accessible, at least for corals. Like this coral, you utilize nitrate more effectively than ammonia, and then there's ones that say the opposite for a different
If
kind of
they've
coral. So
made like an adaptation or something to.
I mean, I don't know. It might just be how that coral works. It's a really good question, and I mean, to me, it just tells me like I like what Rich is saying. Just do the shotgun approach, and if you can make all of it available, sure, why not?
When
Yeah,
you
yeah.
buy urea, what is that, like laboratory made urea, or where is it
Yeah.
coming from?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, you don't just make it yourself.
You're like, hey, Bob.
When I pull it out, I can let you know where I got it from. I haven't done anything with it yet, so I feel a little stupid for buying it. You need to talk to Justin or Salem
Okay.
about this stuff. But what I really want to see is these things happen in tanks, right? So I want to see things come from, Mind Story, which is not a negative to me. A Mind Story is just, I had this idea
Pre-hypothesis.
and I'd like to see it work, just like, I always thought, Zeovit, it's like, okay, that what you're saying all makes some kind of sense in my head. Now show me that it makes a practical difference in tanks. And I think given the fact that we don't see much Zeovit tanks anymore, the Million Monkeys have gone, yeah, we tried this and it wasn't worth the squeeze.
Mhm.
And I guess that's always what I'm interested in. I guess I look at the ammonia and go, well, that's cheap and easy, and if you're careful, really low risk. So, okay, but now showing me that it actually did something is always the next question, and then the question after that is it worth doing? It's
But
fascinating.
like Salem says a lot, like we were seeing on that live stream we just did not too long ago, like, that there's all this cool testing out there now, and hopefully some people will pitch it. Salem was saying there's a lot of these companies that do like the NDoc and then all these bacterial companies that, these tests are a little expensive, but Salem's contact him and they're willing to like pitch in for him to do like, because it's cool. They're there for hobbyists to throw money at them, but it's like, let's figure some shit out too,
Right. Be much better than just throwing spaghetti at the wall and going, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Which
let's
is
put some of these mind stories to rest.
which has worked out pretty well. I keep giggling at that the basics are still the same, no matter all the weird stuff that's come and gone in 25 years. you know, and see them coming back now, right? So even like the polishing filter, it went from a canister filter to a hang-on filter to an inside filter, in-tank filter, and now there's a new version by Heiger that's a hang on the outside filter again. And I just love watching it all move, slide back and forth from form factor to form factor to form factor. I'm just I'm
Which
digging.
is like, that was a hot Magnum like
Somebody's
30
gonna
years ago.
Someone's got to reinvent what, Maddie?
Somebody's going to reinvent the Beckett skimmers and the mesh
Oh,
wheel
no.
skimmers eventually, right? Those will come back.
I don't
Those
miss
will
the
come back.
Beckett. They skimmed great, but I don't miss those.
Drum filters are always on the edge of making a comeback, and then somebody goes, "How much is?" No, I'm not spending that much money.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something else really quick.
Talk away,
I
Matt.
was
What would you
thinking
like?
about it earlier because it sounded like I was shitting on Triton a little bit. I did a little. I'm just curious if you guys do anything like this too. I was sending my water into Triton, like once a month for a while, and I spoke with Greg Carroll. If you've been in the hobby for a while, you know who Greg Carroll is. Dude's got a fantastic looking tank, and I spoke with
Fantastic
him.
tank.
Yeah, just a splendid man as well. And he said that he was dosing. I've always just done like just do the water changes, calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. I was doing the Alpha Reef. I'm sure there's other stuff there that's important, and I do have a sort of a soft spot for some iodine dosing in certain situations. But I also know that if you just do water changes and just do kalkwasser, you can keep a wide variety of corals. But then there's also those ones that are a little bit more demanding that it might be better to do some of this stuff for. Anyway, back to Greg. He mentioned, God, I want to say it was boron and fluoride that he was like, oh, my boron and fluoride was low. And I noticed the difference when I started adding it because I was doing Triton. They send me the amount, I add it monthly. And I'm looking at all this stuff always with a grain of salt. But it's Greg. Greg is smart. Greg has a fantastic looking tank. Anyway, I started doing it, and what I realized after doing some of those ICP tests was iodine, fluoride, and boron were all low and consistently low. And since I was using natural seawater, I know that my boron was not low in the source water. I was also testing that water, and I know it wasn't low, and the other ones weren't either. So something in the tank was using it. I also know just from experience that iodine and fluoride tend to just vanish anyway. It doesn't necessarily mean something's using it. They just
They're
tend
like
to go
very
away in reef aquariums
reactionary,
for
right?
some reason. Yeah, they just and you know, get Craig Bingman on. He'll tell you why. I don't quite understand it all. And that's even when you're not running activated carbon, but maybe that's where some of it goes. Anyway, and then the boron was news to me that my boron was getting depleted. It was consistent. It was like 1 part per million a month or something like that. So anyway, I went into the process of starting to add some of that stuff and then sending ICP in to check my math and check that. And I got to a point where I was actually keeping those consistently right where they were supposed to be for like 6 months. And it was like, I think it was like 1 or 2 weekly editions. And it was so consistent that I could just add it. It's not like I was testing it every time, just once a month. And I wish I could report back that like everything changed and made everything better. I don't know if it did anything at all. But then I was reluctant to stop doing it.
Right.
Because I got into a state of where it felt good to do it. The numbers were just right. And it was like, did I really solve anything? I don't know. Did the corals get a little bit bluer? But it's like, even when I was aware of this phenomenon that I was embarking upon of I'm going to make this change and I really want to see if my corals, I didn't really notice a change. And I didn't document it very well either. I don't know if you guys have ever done anything like that with adding some of the trace elements. I know. Have you ever done that? We'll see. I will swear on a stack of Bibles though that iodine in some cases with some corals has a benefit.
Well, like a lot of softies, right? A lot of softies,
right? Zoanthids. Yeah, and we know that, and you don't even have to test for it. Although there is a really good test for iodine now, but you don't even have to test for it because you know it disappears. So if you add just a modest amount every week, slowly and carefully, you're going to be fine. And you may see a benefit or you may not. But I don't know. There's ICP stuff is just so cool to me now that we can detect this stuff fairly accurately. Rich, I know there's
It
some
did.
contentious stuff about that, but yeah,
No, that's the thing. Is how actionable is it? And
right,
I just sent one off today because it's time to see, is there anything I'm missing? Anything that should be bumped up. The part
yeah,
that gets crazy is, how dialed in does it need to be, right? I'm of the camp where you just need, as long as there's
right,
some of everything available, you're in good shape. If you don't have enough potassium
right.
and you add potassium, I've seen that make a difference, right? Because potassium's pretty
Hmm.
basic. So if you've let your potassium crash, weird things are happening. So the stories of, I wasn't adding this and then I added this and things got better. It's like, well, we'd expect that for a large number of things. Um, the question is, how often do you need to be on it? And, how often do you need to worry about it being low and how often do you need to worry about it being high? And that's one of the wonderful things of once you've gotten a routine, just if it's not arduous and expensive, fucking stay in it. You're winning. You're winning.
Right.
Keep winning.
I was just saying that's why with my clients I just do large water changes because I feel from what I see it just covers all bases. It'll set things that went way up too high. It'll bring it back down to baseline and I'm inputting. I had to keep it simple because I can't sit there for like 3 hours and mess with someone's tank. I gotta get it. I gotta let good enough be good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Simple is sometimes better.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. My system is horribly complex. It's my system is stupid, but it's based on a very simple idea of how to keep it. One of the reasons I've got so many tanks connected is because I believe in water volume as being a good thing to have. So, that's why I have one giant stupid kudzu system rather than a bunch of little ones. But, you know,
No,
but
but
underneath it's simple. The
that
idea.
Richard, what you just said makes me think of. I mean, we knew this before, but I'm just saying the show we did with Chris Jury, where he
Yeah.
was saying it's great to have like a large body, empty body, not the aquarium, just like a large amount of reservoir because your corals can draw off of that.
Yeah. And also pollute into that. So,
Yeah.
the 180 gallon sump I have, the same reason I have it is the same as it was when I first put it in. If my water volume is bigger, everything's going to change more slowly. And I've got way more wiggle room to catch something before a problem happens. Temperature, chemistry, everything, pollution, everything is offset by having a bigger body of water. So
Mhm.
that's why I did it.
Hmm.
So there, motherfuckers.
I don't think we cursed much on this episode. I said shit once.
Give us your
There you go.
favorites.
What's your favorites?
No, you know what? I'm gonna keep it PG today. Well, shit,
Oh.
shit puts me in PG-13 land, but I think I'll just leave it in PG-13
Even in the new
land. I'll let you
Superman.
guys be the R-rated. You guys are the bad boys of Reef
We are.
podcasting.
We cussed on the live stream that Salem and Meckley did.
I love it. You're the bad boys
Oh
of
man,
Reef podcasting.
Yes. We got to claim
Yeah.
something, right?
you wild rebels. You're
Look at
so
you guys
crazy.
in your tiny, tiny pond being crazy.
Yeah, nobody tells you what to do.
No, except for everybody who tells us what to do.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it. Matt, thank you so much for coming on and
Hey.
talking about this stuff.
Thank you so much for having me. I haven't talked to you guys in way too long, and it's always a pleasure. Hey, on Saturday Night Live how they do like a 5-timers club? Do you guys remember that? Was there okay?
Yeah.
Has anybody been on more than 3 times?
That dude from Australia, Craig Bingman was on a bit.
What dude from Australia?
That dude from Australia that we had that was
Scott Oliphant?
Yeah.
He was on
He's been on so often you don't know his name.
3 times.
Well, because they were old shows. And then Bingman was on 3 times.
I think
Okay.
this is your 3rd or 4th, Matt.
This is my 3rd time. Yeah, I
You're
want
there.
to eventually. I mean, no rush, obviously, but I think you guys should have a 5-timers club. The velvet robe, the cigar.
Okay. We'll do that.
We do it in person. You know, there's a handshake, and
We'll do it
Paul Simon's there.
at Reef Retreat next year. We'll do it.
Okay,
We'll make you a
okay,
prayer
I'll do that.
candle that's like 5 foot tall.
5 foot tall prayer candle.
That sounds so weird.
That's a lot of praying.
Yeah. I
All
love
right.
you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, go
Peace.
enjoy the rest of your night, Matt, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Thank God he's gone.
Oh man, I couldn't wait.
So that was Reef Beef. Thanks to our sponsors,
Saltwateraquarium.com
Champion Lighting and Supply.
and powered by PolypLab.
This has been Reef Beef. Reef Beef would like to thank hosts Rich and Ben, producers Rich and Snowman, assistant producers Snowflake, director and editor Snowman, and thanks to our prime beefers for Hod and Joe's Coral Reef, and to our gold level beefers Alfie, Ben J, Bay Area Reefers, Hannah, Francois C, Brittany, James B, Scott C, John W, Jim W, Adam S, and Robert S. Bitch.
Oh,
What?
Ben, how's it going?
It's going well. Actually, the truth is today was almost shitty, but it redeemed itself. I keep having this on again, off again problem with my truck, and it's the fuel pump. And so my truck is at a bank 10 miles from here. I had to abandon it, but I get the new fuel pump this Thursday, and then I have to remove my truck bed and put it on there.
Oh, wow.
But my
Hey,
wife picked me up, and then we did an abbreviated cleaning. So I made a bunch of money without doing very much. So that was the upside.
Is this
Oh,
because
that's
you
good.
keep working on your own truck rather than hiring a professional to do it?
Dude, they're gonna charge me $1,500 to do it when I could do it for $400.
How's that been working out?
Well, I had to get the fuel pump first.
I mean, but you're always working on your truck.
Yeah. Well, I
you
mean,
sound like one of your clients.
no, but a lot of it is like just maintenance that you do.
Okay. I'm
Ben,
sorry.
are those roast beef shower curtains behind you?
Yep. Someone sent them to me, and I like them so much that I don't know if that's roast beef. I think it's just a raw steak.
Just raw steak. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
more sense. I'm not a woman. I don't know. You always manage to look like you're reporting live from a prison riot when
Yeah.
you do.
I should get a cigar that I'm chewing on and some aviator glasses.
There are so this is weird. It's weird talking about like my boss's 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 boss in public on a podcast.
Puppy. What's your dog's name? Grant? Is that Grant?
Stella. She's
That's-
feeling needy.
Yes. Yes, Ben?
Look behind you.
Oh, the shade's going down.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So
like it.
that's there we happen to be here when that happens. And
That's
good
cool.
night. Good night, corals. Good night.
This is Reef Beef, and this is what happens when we're sitting around talking about aquarium stuff after shows and after stuff. Just speaking frankly, sometimes we might cuss. If you're not into that sort of thing, go get Jesus. But we're going to carry on without you because this is Reef Beef.
Yeah, I love that. That poor guy. Wait, fuck that guy.
No, it's
No,
like
no, fuck that guy. But
it's
everybody
crazy
agrees,
though,
right?
right? Though, like, who wants to be embarrassed on a global level? But still, fuck you.
Also,
Yeah.
all that guy had to do was peck her on the cheek, smile,
That's what
peck her
I
on the
thought.
cheek. This would have gone nowhere, right? Nobody would care. They'd be
It
like,
might
"Oh,
have
that's
been
cute."
localized because maybe some people at the concert or but that it never would have gone like globally viral.
I love it so
Yeah.
much.
It's
so dumb.
ultimate karma. Ultimate karma.
It's so dumb, and nobody involved is good. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Wild.
It's like getting struck by a lightning bolt by Zeus.